All right. So you can start with this week, and we're going to talk a little bit about what policing is like in Black and Brown communities. And I guess we'll start with like a little bit. We'll start with like a personal story of the way the town that I was like when I grew up, right? So if we think about the way like my city, was kind of built up, right? There was this road down right down here, and it was called Broadway. And so, typically people thought of the city as having two sides, right? There was the north side and there was the south side. Now, how did you know that you were in either place, right? Because they're sort of like, sort of continuous, right? And don't really know, what was really like maybe like the big things, right? You couldn't like point to it, right? There wasn't a specific marker, right? But it was almost as if like there was this invisible line that you crossed, that you knew that you were in like the north side versus the south side. Now, what was the difference between the areas, right? We know it physically from a location standpoint, it was absolutely different. So if you looked at the north side, right, you were going to see more industrial kind of stuff, right? So you would have like, smokestack that was like here, right? You would have a lot more like a jumbo factory kind of thing, something like that. You would also have, so that's kind of like the big differences. Whereas if you looked at the south side of town, right, they have like these, shiny new developments, right? It was more of the playground of the city, right? And by that I mean like there's this like Ferris wheel, which is what that's supposed to be. It doesn't look like one, and that's okay, but now it's a Ferris wheel, right? You would also see that there's a lot of changes, right? Because there would be a lot of like green space, right? So what I mean by that is like you'd see grass, like in open parks, right, and trails running through that. You would also see that from the quality of homes, right, that there was, a lot more money that was invested into the development of the area, and so on, right? So based off of these physical characteristics, right, we could see that there was a difference between the north and the south side of towns, right? And it's not random, right? I mean, it was clearly on purpose. And what we would also see, right, is that the people within each area were different too. So if you look into the north side of town, right, there's always going to be more black people, and there's always going to be more Hispanic Latine people. But on the south side of town, right, it was almost predominantly white people. So what we're going to end up doing in this, set of videos, right, is to talk about some of these differences and how it relates to policing and why it's an important topic.